The night the council came for her, the moon was dying. Ira Vale was 18 years old when she learned that a pack could be saved with a wedding ring or destroyed by refusing one. Snow fell like ash as the elders spoke of borders collapsing, enemies gathering, and an alpha king whose heartbeat was slowing with every breath. They told her his name in whispers, as if saying it aloud might wake the dead. Calen Blackthorn. The dying king of wolves. He was not offered to her as a husband, but as a solution. If she married him before his last breath, the ancient laws would bind their packs together. Frostpine would survive. If she refused, everyone she had ever known would starve, scatter, or die. By dawn, she was riding north toward a citadel carved from ice and shadow, wearing white meant for funerals, not brides. They said the king was cursed. They said he would not live long enough to remember her face. What they did not tell her was this. Some curses do not want to die, and some girls are not born to be sacrifices. As the gates of Blackthorn Citadel closed behind her, Ira felt something stir deep within her blood. The dying Alpha King was not the most dangerous thing waiting for her. He was only the beginning. The bride of winter. The night the council summoned her, the moon was thin as a blade. Ira Vale stood alone at the edge of Frostpine Pack's territory, boots sinking into snow that glittered like crushed glass. The wind threaded through the black pines, carrying the distant howls of wolves who were hungry, afraid, and waiting. She was 18, barely grown into the power humming beneath her skin, and already the weight of a dying pack pressed against her ribs like a second heart. They said she was the answer. The council hall rose from the mountain like an ancient scar, carved from stone older than any living alpha. Torches flared as she entered, flames bowing low as if they recognized her blood. 7 elders sat in a half-circle, silver eyes sharp, mouths drawn thin with decision already made. Ira Vale, intoned Elder Morrow, his voice echoing. By the laws of the packs you are summoned. She lifted her chin. I'm here. They spoke of famine and borders, of enemies who circled Frostpine like vultures. They spoke of an alliance forged by blood and bond, and finally, they spoke the name that turned the air to ice. Alpha King Calen Blackthorn, the dying Alpha of the North. Legend wrapped his name, conqueror, tyrant, savior, monster. A king whose wolf was said to be carved from shadow and storm. A ruler whose reign had shaped the packs for decades and whose body was failing now, poisoned by a curse no healer could break. The Blackthorn line must not fall, Elder Morrow said. Without an heir, the northern packs will fracture. War will follow. Frostpine will not survive it. Ira understood then. The way their gazes pinned her. The way fate tightened its grip. You want me to marry him, she said quietly. A mating bond forged before his death will anchor the realm. Another elder replied. Your blood old, rare can stabilize his power long enough for the transition. She laughed once, sharp and hollow. He's dying. Yes. And I'm 18. Silence. Ira's hands curled into fists. She thought of her mother's grave beneath the snow, of children shivering in empty halls, of wolves who trusted her because she had never lied to them. Do I have a choice? She asked. The elders did not answer, so she nodded. 3 days later, she was dressed in white fur and silver chains, riding north through a storm that howled like a warning. The Blackthorn Citadel emerged from the blizzard, vast, dark, crowned with spires like claws scraping the sky. Wolves lined the ramparts, eyes glowing gold and red watching the child bride arrive. Inside, the air smelled of iron and pine sap. They brought her to the high chamber, where the Alpha King waited. Calen Blackthorn stood by the window, tall despite the sickness hollowing his cheeks. His hair was black as midnight, threaded with silver far too early. Power rolled off him in waves, ancient, dangerous, restrained by sheer will. When he turned, his gaze struck her like thunder. So young, his eyes seemed to say. So doomed, hers replied. You should not be here, he said. I know. They stood in silence as the storm battered the walls. Then Calen stepped forward, each movement precise, controlled. When he took her hand, his palm was warm and trembling. This marriage will bind you to a curse, he said. To a kingdom already half dead. Ira met his gaze, fear burning into resolve. If it saves my pack, I'll bear it. For the first time, something flickered in the Alpha King's eyes. Not pity, respect. The bond ritual began as the moon climbed high, silver light spilling across the chamber. Ancient words were spoken. Blood touched blood, power surged violent, blinding. And Era gasped as something answered inside her, ancient and awake. Kaelin staggered. The curse recoiled. The bond snapped into place like a locked door. Outside, wolves howled, not in mourning, but in shock. The dying Alpha King did not fall. Instead, his eyes flared with a light that had not been seen in generations. And Vale realized, with a sudden, terrifying certainty, she had not married a dead king. She had awakened a monster. To be continued, the curse that breathes. The first scream echoed through Blackthorn Citadel just before dawn. Ira woke with a sharp gasp, the sound tearing out of her throat as if someone else had pulled it free. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Heat burned under her skin, veins lit with silver fire, and the mating mark at her collarbone throbbed like a living thing. She was not alone. Kaelin stood at the foot of the bed, bare-chested, fists clenched so tightly his knuckles had gone white. His shadow stretched across the stone floor, too large, too sharp, the outline of a wolf that did not fully belong to this world. "Don't move," he said hoarsely. Too late. Power surged through her again, answering his command without permission. The bond flared, bright, violent, and Era cried out as images slammed into her mind. A battlefield drowned in blood, a crown cracked in half, a king screaming as black veins crawled up his arms, a voice whispering rule or rot. She collapsed back onto the mattress, breath coming in ragged pulls. Kaelin was beside her instantly. His hands hovered over her, shaking. He did not touch her. "What did you see?" he asked. "You," she whispered. "Ding," and becoming something else. His jaw tightened. "Then the curse has noticed you." The truth settled like frost in her lungs. The council had not told her everything. The curse was older than the packs, older than kings. It was not merely killing Kaelin. It was Waitings, feeding on the end of his bloodline. The bond had interrupted its feast. "You stabilized me," Kaelin said quietly, "but now it will try to take you instead." Era forced herself upright. "I won't break." He laughed low and bitter. "You're 18. I'm stronger than you think." For a moment, he looked at her not as a political sacrifice, not as a weapon, but as a girl standing at the edge of a storm she did not fully understand. That was the moment he turned away. The court reacted like a shaken hive. Whispers followed her through the corridors. Some wolves bowed too deeply, eyes filled with awe. Others stared with open fear. The healers argued in hushed tones, while the generals sharpened blades they might soon use against their own king. "She's dangerous," one snarled. "She's a blessing," another hissed back. Era walked among them in silence, learning the weight of her new name. Queen bonded curse, bearer, child bride. Kaelin kept his distance. Days passed, and each night the bond grew stronger. She felt his pain before he made a sound. She felt the curse when it stirred, cold, slick, intelligent. Sometimes she woke with blood on her hands that wasn't hers, visions of claws and crowns still burning behind her eyes. One night the curse struck back. They were in the great hall when Kaelin suddenly dropped to one knee, a snarl ripping from his chest. Black veins flared across his throat, his wolf roaring inside him, wild and feral. Era didn't think, she ran. The bond snapped tight, dragging power from her core like breath from lungs. She grabbed his face, silver light pouring from her palms. "Look at me," she shouted. "Stay with me." The curse recoiled, shrieking in her mind. Pain tore through her skull, but she did not let go. Something ancient answered her call. The hall shook. Stone cracked, the black veins retreated. Kaelin collapsed into her arms, breath harsh, eyes glowing, not gold but something deeper, something older. Silence fell. Slowly he lifted his gaze to hers. "What are you?" he asked. Era swallowed. "I don't know." Fear flickered through the watching wolves. Their alpha king had not only survived, he had been changed. That night, Kaelin summoned her to the high tower. The storm outside mirrored the tension between them, thunder rolling like an omen. He poured wine he did not drink. She stood near the fire, warmth failing to chase the chill from her bones. "You should hate me," he said suddenly. She frowned. "For what?" "For letting them use you, for binding you to my death. You didn't force me." "I didn't stop it." Silence stretched, then Ira spoke softer. "I feel the curse. It knows me now, it's afraid." Kaelin turned sharply. "Afraid of what?" Her hand drifted to her chest, to the power coiled there like a sleeping beast. off what we might become. The bond pulsed between them, no longer fragile, but forging itself into something dangerous. Outside, the wolves began to howl again, not in fear, in warning, because far beyond the northern borders, something ancient stirred and it had felt the bond awaken. To be continued. The wolf beneath the crown. The northern border burned 3 nights later. Era felt it before the messengers arrived, heat rippling through the bond, the sudden spike of Kaelin's rage snapping like a broken chain. She woke from sleep already on her feet, heart pounding, power coiling tight beneath her skin. War, she whispered. The doors to her chamber flew open. Kaelin strode in, fully armed, black cloak snapping behind him like living shadow. His presence filled the room, no weakness left, no trace of the dying king she'd been promised. The Ashmore pack crossed our border, he said. They brought a blood seer. Era's stomach dropped. Blood seers fed on cursed power. They felt us, she said. Yes, for the first time Kaelin did not tell her to stay behind. You're coming with me? The battlefield was a frozen plain lit by fire and moonlight. Wolves clashed like living storms, teeth and steel tearing through the snow. The air stank of blood and ozone. Ira rode beside Kaelin, the bond thrumming so violently it hurt. Every strike he made echoed inside her. Every scream scraped along her nerves. Then she saw it. At the center of the chaos stood the blood seer, hooded, chanting, hands slick with red magic. Black tendrils lashed outward, reaching not for Kaelin, but for her! Ira! Kaelin roared. Too late, the magic slammed into her chest, ripping a scream from her throat as the curse inside Kaelin surged through the bond straight into her veins. She fell from the horse. The world shattered. She stood in a place that was not a place. Black snow fell upward. A throne of bone cracked down the center of a dead world, and upon it sat something wearing Kaelin's face. Not a king, a god shaped like a wolf. You are the vessel, it purred. The door. I won't be used. Era snarled. Power exploded from her core, silver wild hers. The thing recoiled, howling as ancient runes burned across the sky. You were chosen. No, she said, voice steady. I chose. She tore herself free. She woke screaming his name. Kaelin knelt over her, hands pressed to her chest, blood dripping from his mouth as if he had torn the curse out with his teeth. I felt it take you, he whispered, broken. I thought I'd lost you. Era's fingers closed around his wrist. You won't, she said. Not again. The battlefield had gone silent. The blood seer lay dead, body frozen from the inside out, silver ice blooming from his heart. Every wolf stared at Ira with something dangerously close to reverence. That night, the truth came out. The bond had not merely stabilized the curse, it had split it. Half remained in Kaelin, controlled, chained by will. The other half lived in Era, awake, unbound, answering only to her. You're not my anchor, Kaelin said quietly in the war room. You're my equal. The words changed something between them. No longer king and sacrifice. No longer protector and burden. But partners standing at the edge of a throne the world was not ready for. Era stepped closer, the bond humming, not with pain but heat. You're afraid of me, she said. I'm afraid of what I feel, he corrected. Their closeness was electric, dangerous, one breath apart. Touch me, she challenged softly. His hand lifted, then stopped. Not yet, he said. If I cross that line, there's no going back. Era smiled, slow and fearless. Good. Outside the moon rose full and crimson, and deep beneath the frozen mountains the ancient curse, wounded but alive, opened its many eyes. It had lost its king, but it had found a queen. To be continued, the queen the curse feared. The dream started the same night. Era stood barefoot on ice that did not crack beneath her weight. Above her the sky churned, silver moon splitting, reforming, bleeding into one another. Below, something vast shifted, its breath rumbling like distant thunder. You carry my heart, the voice whispered. You wear my crown. She woke with frost on her lashes and power screaming through her veins. Across the chamber, Kaelin sat awake, elbows on his knees, head bowed as if he had not slept at all. The bond between them was tight, too tight, buzzing like a live wire stretched between two storms. You heard it too, she said. He nodded. The curse is no longer hiding. The next morning, the council arrived at Blackthorn Citadel. They came robed in white and gold, bearing relics older than the packs themselves. Their expressions hardened the moment they saw Ira standing at Kaelin's right hand, not behind him. You've overstepped, Elder Moro said coldly. The girl was meant to be a vessel, not a ruler. Era felt the curse stir, eager, offended. Kaelin spoke first. She is my queen. Shock rippled through the chamber. A mating bond does not make her fit to rule, another elder snapped. She holds half the curse. That alone makes her a threat. Era stepped forward before Kaelin could stop her. Then kill me, she said calmly, and watch the curse consume your king within a day. Silence. The elders knew she spoke the truth. That night, an attempt was made on her life. The blade slid between her ribs while she slept, cold, precise, dipped in null, venom meant to sever bonds. The curse screamed. So did Kaelin. The bond snapped him awake, dragging him across the citadel in a blur of shadow and fury. He tore the assassin apart before the second scream left her throat. Era survived, barely. As Kaelin knelt beside her blood-soaked sheet, something inside her broke open. Power poured out, not wild, not destructive, but as commanding. The wound closed. The venom burned away. The curse recoiled like a whipped beast. Kaelin stared at her, breath shaking. You healed yourself. Era's eyes glowed silver white. No, she said softly. I ordered it. By dawn. The packs were already whispering a new title. The Winter Queen. Kaelin began training her himself, not as a weapon, but as a ruler. Strategy, pack law, blood magic, and restraint. The bond sharpened with every shared breath, every clash of will. They argued like equals. They fought like predators. And in the spaces between long looks, almost touches, the air grew heavy with things neither dared name. Until the night the curse struck again. The ground beneath the citadel split open, releasing a howl so deep it shook the mountains. From the chasm rose a creature of bone and shadow, a fragment of the ancient curse given flesh. The heart beast. Kaelin breathed. It's come for you. Ira stepped forward as the wolves gathered behind her, fear and loyalty warring in their eyes. No, she said. It's come to Bo. She walked alone to the edge of the abyss. The beast lunged. Era raised her hand. Kneel. The creature slammed into the stone, shattered into ash, and was gone. The silence that followed was absolute. Kaelin looked at her not as a king looks at his queen, but as a wolf looks at his mate. Reverence, hunger, choice. That night he finally crossed the line. When his hands cupped her face, the bond ignited, not painful, not wild, but est whole. Their kiss was slow, devastating, sealing something the curse could never touch. Outside, the wolves howled not in warning, in allegiance. Far away, in the deepest dark where the curse's true core slept, it understood its mistake too late. It had bound itself to a girl who did not fear monsters. She ruled them, to be continued.